Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about state. We're going to talk about U.S. diplomatic efforts, how they're going, the route they appear to be taking, and what it would take for that to actually work now that we have seen a little bit more about the responses to the different parties involved. And we're going to do this because I got this message. I just watched Sullivan talking about his plans to meet with the head of the PA in this case being the Palestinian Authority. And the description of the plan, with admittedly few details, sounds like exactly what you described. You seem to think things have gone too far for that to work. Can you do the let's just say it's true thing and tell us what you think it would take to make their plan work? Okay, so quick recap of what the plan is, and now this is pretty well confirmed at this point. It's not just me speculating. The U.S. desire is for the Israeli offensive to be successful against Hamas. Okay. At that point, they want the Palestinian Authority to reassert governance over Gaza. And then they have to find some kind of security arrangement. Okay. The original plan during the speculation when I was talking about it was an international coalition to stand between the two sides for an extended period and pump in a bunch of aid. And understand, when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. We're talking about billions here. Okay, so what has happened? The reception to the idea of the Palestinian Authority taking over Gaza and being the governing, administrating body there, it wasn't warm. There is still the question of the effectiveness of the Israeli offensive and whether or not it's actually going to create more, it's going to force generate for the other side, which I think it very well might. But assuming that doesn't happen, there's nothing the U.S. can do about that. But assuming that doesn't happen, which, again, I'm skeptical of, the rest of the plan, the current head of the Palestinian Authority, maybe it's time for retirement. The thing is, he's got a lot of support, fervent support, but it's among a small group of people. For this to work, you would need somebody or multiple somebodies with a broad base of support, not just really enthusiastic support among a small group. So I would say you would probably need a dynamic figure from Gaza, not somebody from the West Bank, to do the administration, to be the top person there. And yeah, he would probably need to retire. And the thing is, that's not out of the question. The man's 88 years old. So maybe if he understands the stakes, maybe he decides to. I don't think that part's impossible. The U.S. position on who is going to provide the security arrangements, it doesn't seem like they're having a lot of luck finding international partners willing to put their troops between the Israelis and the Palestinians. There is talk of using Palestinian security services to do that, and even the U.S. providing training to them. First, I mean, that's a political landmine. Like there is so much that, yeah, there's a lot of issues with that. The other thing is, I don't foresee that force actually being strong enough to stand between the two sides. And there's also the fact that I'm fairly certain Israel's just going to be like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. I don't think that aspect of it is going to happen. They're going to need the international coalition to act as peacekeepers. They're going to have to build it and build it big. There's no. I don't think there's an alternative to that. I don't think there's a plan B. And it's even more complicated than we've really talked about, because we have focused on the Arab states that are reluctant to commit their own troops to that. Understand, for this to work, you need forces that have the best interest of the Palestinians at heart and that would be received well by the Palestinian side. But you also need partners that the Israeli side would be comfortable with. It's a huge ask. I think that is where they're going to run into real issues, is trying to find that force. I don't believe the U.S. the U.S. population has the appetite for that. I don't think that's going to happen. I do not believe that the left or the right in the United States would actually be willing to sign off on that in any large numbers. That would be an incredibly unpopular decision. But there would have to be at least some representation of countries that Israel views as allies for it to get approval from that side. And then by default, you have to have Arab nations involved who actually care about the Palestinians. If you can't have that, then there's no point in doing it, because it is going to turn into more Masters of the Universe carving up the world stuff. The rough sketch, sure. I mean, it's a good idea, but it's also not new. This is a rehash of something else that didn't actually work. My guess is there are people who are looking at it and they're like, okay, in point of fact, it didn't work, but I'm convinced the theory is sound, and they're going to try it again. It's not a bad idea, but for it to work, they need all of the pieces in place. There's no way it works if you can't get every step along the way. I am very skeptical of that first step, of Israel actually being able to degrade the combat effectiveness. I am very skeptical of that occurring, at least anytime soon. And the longer it goes on, the less likely I think it is that it really occurs. As far as the Palestinian Authority asserting governance, yeah, it would need to be restructured. But I don't think that the people involved, the people that might have to, retire or take a different position, I don't think that they would be necessarily ardently opposed to that because of the stakes. So that part seems easiest to me. But then they've got to get that international coalition. And that's going to be hard, because there is not a track record of success in this foreign policy hotspot. And nobody wants to sign up for something and put their troops in a situation like that where there's not a guarantee of success. Again, this is the most complicated situation on the foreign policy stage. It's worth a shot. It is certainly, attempting that is certainly better than the status quo. But understand, it's a long shot. Because on top of everything we just discussed as far as the logistics, you have to actually be able to broker a lasting peace between the two sides. And that peace is not going to make anybody happy. The talking points that have energized energized the bases in both locations. None of those are actually going to happen. Not if they want peace. There was a sign of very, I see as hopeful. There was a person with a lot of connections to Hamas that kind of indicated maybe it was time to recognize Israel. I don't know how widespread that sentiment is, but it being said publicly, I mean, that's something. That is something. It shows some willingness to actually try to build a lasting peace. But that's just one person on one side. There's a lot to this. I know people want an immediate resolution. I don't know that that's likely. That this isn't a simple situation. It takes a lot of moving parts coming from a lot of different countries, and they all have to actually be committed to it. Because if it starts and they're not committed to it, it will fail. They have to be willing to see it through, and it will be decades. It will be a very long process of hopefully a lot of boredom standing between the two sides. But getting countries to commit to something that will be decades, that's hard. Especially when there's also going to have to be a massive fund for reconstruction, relief. It's huge. It's huge. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of things everything going right for it to happen. And if it doesn't, there's going to be another cycle. That's the reality of it. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.